Joining us in the studio this morning is lawyer Ady Macauley, flag bearer aspirant of the All People's Congress Party. Lawyer Macauley is here to talk about the outcome of the APC press conference yesterday on their position of the tripartite agreement, the appointment of the ECSL boss, and the ongoing census preparation, amongst other things. He's here this morning to talk to us. Good morning, Ady Macauley. Good morning, welcome to your wife.
Good morning.
Now, to our viewers and listeners, the cover discussion here today will be centered on the collapse of the implementation of the agreement for national unity and the tripartite committee recommendations as declared by the APC in their press briefing on Wednesday, the 18th of March 2026. The APC's position is that the government has demonstrated a lack of commitment and bad faith, leading to a complete breakdown of the democratic reform process initiated after the disputed 2023 elections. Now, the tripartite agreement and implementation, was a means to look at the disagreement from the 2023 elections, and it was supposed to be a gentleman's agreement wherein both parties should have come to the table, agreed on certain things, make recommendation, and see those recommendations go through the right processes and procedures. Where has all this gone wrong?
Firstly, let me just make clarification. The agreement of national unity was not a gentleman's agreement. A gentleman's agreement is where people discuss, negotiate verbally in an informal way and agree on certain things based on the trust that is between them. In the case of the agreement for national unity, it wasn't a gentleman's agreement. That is a complete mischaracterization. It is an agreement signed by the government of Sierra Leone. Governments don't sign or don't go into gentlemen's agreements, they go into formal agreements. So the agreement for national unity is a formal agreement. Now, going back to your question, I want to take Sierra Leoneans back to where it all started, the culmination of all of this. You will recall that after the 2023 elections, which we in the APC consider to have been stolen, there was an impasse, more so with the refusal of ECSL to publish and make public the disaggregated vote results. It reached a point where we decided as a party to withdraw from governance. So our members of parliament, elected members of parliament then, did not take up their seat in parliament. And also our elected councillor and chairmen and mayors of various councils did not take up their seats in those councils. So we had interlocutors, specifically our international partners, the UN, ECOWAS, AU, Commonwealth. We had the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion. All of them came in. And in the interest of stability, in the interest of the people of this country, we agreed to sit and talk. After we finalized our discussions, we reached what we call an agreement for national unity with 8 resolutions. But one of the most important and core resolution is Resolution 3 that deals with forming a committee of inter-party membership with gender balance, which will ensure that we discuss what were the lapses of the 2023 elections and agree on how we proceed going forward for future elections, so that never again will Sierra Leone witness a blatant heist of the electoral process like we witnessed in 2023. We agreed on that. Quite a few of the resolutions were implemented. For example, the president coming out, making a national statement, talking to the country, and also the APC ending their boycott of governance and coming back to the governance space. And also the fourth one was for the release of prisoners, and also the third, we agreed on setting up a committee that will deal with those issues, like I said. So quite a few of those resolutions have been complied with. One of the sticky points is the tripartite, which came up with 80 resolutions. And there are many resolutions, 80 as I said, but there are core resolutions that are intended to ensure that we build up an electoral system and process that has a foundation of integrity, which each and every Sierra Leonean will believe in. And when results are read, people will accept it. We are tired of every time there are results announced by ECSL, someone will come out and complain. But 2023 was a special case. So the government has failed to implement many of the resolutions in Resolution 3, which deals with the 80 recommendations in the tripartite. So this is how we are where we are today.
Now, Mr. Macauley, the argument from the other side has been that these recommendations from the tripartite committee should have been ratified by Parliament. Earlier on mentioned the issue of gentleman's agreement, and you said it is not. Now, if we're looking at a very important process like this that will require constitutional change, institutional reforms that has been agreed on by both parties, and it was not ratified by Parliament. You can agree with me, even international conferences and conventions have to be ratified for them to have legal basis. Now, an important committee like this has made 80 recommendations, and they were not taken to Parliament in any shape or form. Isn't this the reason why government is dragging their feet to implement most of these recommendations?
So let us go back to the reason why we signed the Agreement for National Unity. It was a solemn commitment by both parties, the APC and the SLPP, to prioritize national stability, to prioritize integrity in our electoral process, to prioritize national cohesion over partisan interest. This is in the interest of the country. And you know, the government has balked on implementing the Agreement for National Unity, and now they are coming back to blame the APC. So I don't want to go back into international law. When you talk about treaties, you have countries that practice what we call the monist system of international law, where automatically you sign a treaty, it becomes law of your country. And you have other countries that practice the duality, basically, the duality system of international law.
Under where we fall as a country.
Where you sign an agreement internationally, then you have to come back to Parliament and implement it. But let me give you this. There is what we call pacta sunt servanda. It's a Latin word in international law, which means that agreement must be kept. And this is what we call jus cogens. Again, it basically means it is a preemptive norm of international law that certain principles are not negotiable. And one of those is that when you enter into agreement, you have to abide by those agreements. If we cannot trust ourselves, then we have a problem. You cannot have a world order, because when people go to conferences, negotiate, sign agreements, and when you go back to their various countries, they do completely different things. Then you will not have the world order that we have today. So which is why when we come back to the Sierra Leonean context, we are not talking about an international context here. we are talking about a domestic context, but since you brought in the issue of Parliament ratifying and all of that, I want to take you to Section 40 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, which basically gives the president the power, either by himself or through his authority, where Sierra Leone can sign treaties, where Sierra Leone can go into agreements. And if these agreements have to do with, obligations on the state, i.e. the changing of laws, or whether there is going to be a financial charge on the consolidated fund, then that particular agreement has to be enacted into a law or be ratified by Parliament by not less than half of members of Parliament. So when you look at our own parliamentary context, who introduces a legislation in Parliament? Who pushes the agenda of government in Parliament? Is the leader of government business in Parliament, which is headed by an SLPP member. Even the deputy is headed by an SLPP member. So if we are to take the agreement for national unity to Parliament to be ratified, it is not the duty of the APC. We are not in governance. We are not in control of Parliament. They have majority in Parliament. They have the leadership of Parliament. They introduce laws to Parliament. It is they that determine what comes before Parliament, what does not come before Parliament. So it is basically fraudulent for them to turn back and say, look, it's the APC, they did not ratify, this is a gentleman's agreement. Gentleman's agreement where you cannot come and politically gaslight the APC into a point where the public is starting to blame the APC for not going through with the agreement for national unity, which is why myself, I am here today. Dr. Maya is at Liberty Television. We are tired of us being lied about, so which is why we are here to set the record straight. So if there is a failure to ratify the agreement for national unity, it is squarely on the doorstep of the BU government and the SLPP-led parliament.
Quickly, before Alimatu comes in, let's look at, the APC has once again announced that a withdrawal from parliament and local councils, will be enforced. Now, there's also another argument to this, Mr. Macauley. This leaves your constituents, people who voted these members of parliament, people who voted these councillors and chairpersons and mayor without a voice. How does this move practically force the government's hand, on, these issues, particularly one of them being the appointment of Edmond Alpha?
So when we are talking about the constituents having a voice through their representatives in whether it's in parliament or the local council, but specifically about the local council, let's talk about whether or not that voice has been given to them. We have the Decentralization Act, we have all these policies about decentralizing, but the government has always held on to these powers to decentralize. So quite a lot of the stuff is happening at the top, not at the local level. But secondly, our councillors, or even SLPP councillors, can only have voices to speak if they have the wherewithal to do their job. For the whole of 2025, no funds were disbursed by government to the local council. This year, no funds have been disbursed for the proper functioning of the local council. So even if there isn't a boycott, there's not much that can be done because they've not been given the funds by the central government to do the job they are there to do. That is to represent the people and voice the concerns of their constituents and the people they represent in the council. So for me, what we are doing now is to ensure that we bring to an end this impasse by bringing to the fore all the issues that have held us back into pushing on with our democratic process. I mean, when we talk about democracy, it's not just going to the polls, electing representatives. they go to parliament and they go to council and they sit there. It's a process. It's about development of the country. But you cannot develop a country where you have a government that is not sincere. You know, it's interesting for Sierra Leoneans to note that the SLPP government led by President Bio has never lived by what it agreed to. One very prominent example was the increment of fuel. Just a week ago, when fuel was increased to 32 leos per liter, we had a press release from the Ministry of Information telling the people of Sierra Leone that, we know, there is war in Iran and all of that. It has affected the increment of the price of fuel. But what we can assure you that for the next 2 weeks, there is not going to be any increment. Just 2 days later, diesel was increased from 32 to 35,000 euros. It shows you they cannot live by what they've committed to them by themselves to do. So for me, we have to be honest with ourselves as Sierra Leoneans. Do we put political party on personal interest above national interest? I think it's about time we stop that. Let's think about each and every Sierra Leonean. There's huge cost of living crisis in Sierra Leone. We should not be talking about this. That is what we should be talking about. But now we are not talking about that. We are talking about the government, stonewalling the implementation of the tripartite agreement, and it's a concern for us.
Mr. Macauley, just yesterday your party had a press conference, and in that press conference you described the agreements for national unity as having collapsed. What specific benchmarks or obligations can you point to that prove a total collapse instead of just a slow pace in implementing the agreement?
Okay, so like I said in my opening, there are 80 recommendations, but there are other recommendations in those 80 recommendations that are key to the democratic process, more so when the electoral cycle has kicked in. If those recommendations are not implemented, then we will not be able to prevent the stealing of elections like it happened in 2023, which is why at this point we are voicing out this concern. But let me give you some of them. One of them is Resolution 20. It basically requires Parliament to set up a standing committee to provide oversight over ECSL. Our leader in Parliament, that is the Minority Leader Abdul Kagbo, has requested formally and on the floor of Parliament that this standing committee be set up. The Speaker, the Clerk, and the Leader of Government Business have not adhered to this. They've not been able to do this. The reason why this requirement under Resolution 20 is there, many of the work that is to be done with ECSL will have to have legislative backing. So they thought it fit that we have Parliament providing oversight over ECSL, so that whatever implementation of those resolutions that have to do with ECSL in terms of bringing them into legislation, they should be able to work seamlessly. That has not happened, so that is just one of the issues. And the second one is Resolution 38, which deals with decennial census. One of the ways in which the elections were stolen was in a very structural way. The government made sure that they carried out certain acts which gives them advantage over the APC. For example, the 2021 or 2022 census. I mean, it was not meant to be in 2021, it was meant to be in 2025. but they came in and called it a midterm census, which is not provided for by law. And by that census, they skewed the numbers in favor of their strongholds, to the point where when it came to the distribution of parliamentary seats, their strongholds have far higher numbers than they deserve. So one of the things that we think which was provided for was Resolution 38 in the ANU, which says that we should have a census, a decennial census, which means every 10 years, which is going to be in 2025 from the last one in 2015. And specifically, it is provided that this census should be done in a way that the ECSL and other government institutions that have to do with the management of elections will be able to do so. And the only way you can make use of census result as per the agreement under Resolution 38 is that you cannot use any census numbers wherein the numbers are finalized less than 2 years before elections. So the census was meant to be held in December 2025. The government willfully delayed this. So when we do our census in 2026, as they have planned to do, we will not be able to do it. What will happen? They will go back to the 2021 census, which is discredited, which is disputed by us. So this is compounding the problems, the dispute between the APC and the SLPP. So this is just one of the other issues. And the other one is Resolution 78, which deals with the electoral system. As you know, the default electoral system in Sierra Leone is first past the post. And our constitution, Section 39, tells us that where there are no existing constituency boundaries, then we will utilize the proportional representation system. The government opted for the proportional representation system and abandoned the default system of first past the post.
Now that you mentioned the constitution and the PR system, is it not the same constitution that the government is using now to appoint Edmund Alpha? And meanwhile, the All People's Congress is opposed to this appointment, but the All People's Congress is all in for the government to actually use this same constitution, to go by this same constitution for the use of the first past the post system.
Yes, I know what you're saying is that 6 of one is half a dozen of the other, but it is not always the case.
Okay.
So what the law permits, good conscience and moral forbids. You know, we had the the Third Reich, headed by Adolf Hitler in Germany. They did horrible things, the Holocaust and all of that. But when you look at the laws that prevailed in Germany then, everything he did, though, you know, bad, was legal. So you cannot always emphasize on legality as against good conscience or what is good for the country. The reason why we, the APC, we are not dealing with the legality of the appointment of Edmund Alpha is this. When we had the agreement for national unity, one of the things agreed to was that the reason why we always have problem with the appointment of electoral commissioners is the fact that it lacks consultation. And secondly, we cannot leave it in the hands of the president, who invariably, if he goes for a second term, will be a candidate to choose who is going to be the referee. So what was agreed in the agreement for national unity, specifically Resolution 36, was this: that we will form what we call a search and nominating committee. That search and nominating committee will be composed of lawyers, journalists, people from the religious bodies, civil society, labor congress. they will nominate their members into these search and nominating committees. This search and nominating committee now will put the terms and reference for the chief, for electoral commissioners, and they will put out adverts. People will apply, and they will carry out interviews and do a shortlist of at least 3 people, which they will now take to the president to say, Mr. President, these are 3 Sierra Leoneans that we believe have the integrity to ensure that confidence in our electoral process is restored. It is now up to you to execute your constitutional duty to appoint one of them. If that happens, I believe it will be it will be something that will bring peace and sanity to the electoral process. It will be something that will ensure that ECSL does its work properly. ECSL is depoliticized. Kone was a member of the SLPP.
You mean Mohamed Kone?
Mohamed Kone.
Do you have proof of that?
It is rumored that Edmond Alpha is a carrying member of the SLPP.
Rumors aren't always the truth.
Well, many times we find out that when it comes to governance, they are true. So the reason why the APC is opposed to Edmond Alpha, and not just Edmond Alpha, also all of those commissioners that were part of the gang of 5 commissioners who unanimously agreed to have the fraudulent election result read in 2023. We cannot have them at ECSL. As presently constituted, we cannot have them. The president has started doing a good job by exiting Kone. But Kone did not just do it all by himself. He did it in collaboration with the other 4 commissioners, because Macauley, none of them, not any one of them dissented.
These commissioners have time limit. You can't just sack them based on what the APC feels. The reason I'm saying this is because we are law-abiding citizens. We go by the dictates of the Constitution, by laws we've passed through Parliament. If these commissioners have a term limit that is not yet expired, and if Kone's term limit has expired and Edmond Alpha has served as an acting for 6 months, and the Civil Service Code debars him from further serving 6 months, which means there's now a vacuum. And the president, in his wisdom, as always they say, and in tandem with what the law says, has appointed Edmond Alpha for there not to be a vacuum of who should be the commissioner. We haven't gotten the new amendment constitution ratified or passed yet through Parliament, because there are also issues with the tabling of that bill that members of the APC have raised. But albeit it is now before Parliament, it will take another few months for that bill to be amended and then passed. And then there's already a vacuum that the law says should be filled. You're basically saying, forgo this law, pick this law, leave part of this constitution, agree with this one, and this is not I understand the good faith aspect. I understand that if SLPP has agreed to these recommendations, they should man up and live up to these agreements. But there are also legal implications that are beyond you and I, that will need the court interpretation. If the president doesn't appoint a commissioner wherein there's been a vacant for over 6 months, there are implications to that. If commissioners are there who conducted the last elections, then that time limit has not yet expired and they are removed, there are also complications to that. So the APC, don't you think the APC is asking for too much?
Okay, so you've given a mouthful in terms of constitutional enforcement. What you've just said there is that this present government has been very lawless. It's not me, that is what you've just said. Because you are saying that the Constitution says that when he is appointed, he has a term limit. So we are asking now the president to do something which will be basically illegal, which will be which will be, what will I say, lawlessness. Well, are you saying that the president was lawless?
No, if the APC
Just hold on for me.
I'm coming. If
You've
the
asked
APC
your
is
question.
asking,
No, you've asked your question.
No, I am asking that if the APC is asking
Allow
that the
me to
president
answer my
Mr.
question.
Macauley, no, I'm coming. Do not twist my question. I'm asking this.
Yes.
If the APC is saying,
it's the implication of what you said.
I'm coming. If the APC is saying,
if you allow me to land, I
want to make my question clear. If the APC is saying,
I understand your question. You don't have to make it clear.
I'm sorry, Mr. Macauley. Let me make it clear. If the APC is saying, do not appoint Edmond Alpha because he was part of the cohort who we believe rigged the election in the favor of SLPP, and those commissioners who are there now, you should wait until we have this new constitution wherein the recommended committee will appoint who should be eligible. You are telling the presidency, forgo the constitution we have now. That's what you're saying.
Yes, and if you just allow me to land, you will understand what I'm saying. And I will repeat it again. So you are basically, by what you've said, you're basically saying that the president has been lawless in the past.
No, I'm asking if that's the APC's position. That's what I'm asking. I'm not saying.
I don't want you to tell me how to answer my question. You've asked your question, and I will answer my question. So the implication of what you've said is that the president has been lawless before. Because you are telling us that if we ask the president to get rid of Edmond Alpha, he will be breaking the law. Well, he has been breaking the law. That is what you're saying. Because let me give you a plethora of ways in which he has breached the constitution and break laws in this country. I was commissioner of the ACC. I have a tenure of 5 years. I did 2 years. The president came and sacked me. I was removed from there. And if you want to remove me, firstly, you have to set up an investigating committee, which is a commission, which must be made up of at least 3 people. One of them must be a judge qualified to be in the Court of Appeal. After that, if their recommendation is that I have misconducted myself in office and I should be removed, that recommendation should be taken to Parliament, and there has to be 2/3 majority vote. Did President Bio go through that process that is required by law when he was sacking me? Forget about me. Go to the ombudsman, which is guaranteed by this very constitution. In fact, no letter was even written to the ombudsman sacking him. It was just an appointment that was announced. Go to the bank governor. He was removed contrary to the provisions of the constitution. So, you know, let us don't say we comply with the constitution when we feel convenient to do so. So, which is why I said, if based on what you've said to me, it means that you are saying that the president has broken the law in the past, he's been lawless in the past. That is the implication of what the question you asked. But now let's come to the issue of good faith. You know, like I said, and I'm repeating it again, when we signed the agreement for national unity, there was a solemn commitment that we will prioritize national stability. We will prioritize integrity in our democratic process. We will prioritize national cohesion over political party interest. So let me give you this. The Civil Service Code is a code. We've gone to Parliament with the Constitutional Amendment Bill, which was an attempt to deal with this particular issue, even though they tweaked it a little. They tweaked it a little from what it was meant to be, because this search and nomination committee is meant to have people that are nominated by these various groups, not the president nominating someone from these various groups. You understand? So if we've agreed, and the understanding was that going to 2023, this is what we are going to utilize. What stopped the government? The agreement for national unity was signed in October 2023. You have 2024, 2025. What stopped the government from implementing that particular aspect of it? Nothing stopped them. The reason why President Bio and the SLPP government have chosen to choose Edmond Alpha is because they know Edmond Alpha is one person that will slavishly carry out the dictate of the SLPP and the Biu government.
Are you saying that based on its track record, or do you have any proof of it?
Edmond Alpha is someone that has exhibited a behavior that does not give confidence to anyone that is contesting an election to say that he will give you a fair outcome. For example, in 2000, in Ward 155 in Kwenadugu, in 2020, in Ward 155 in Kwenadugu district, there was a by-election in which the APC had clearly won based on the RA form that were issued out. And when the tallying, the district tallying was being done, where everyone was present, Dr. Richard Conte was there, Dr. Kaifa Lamara was there, everyone, Edmond Alpha was there, everyone was there. And the individual that was inputting, the ECSL officer that was inputting the result, changed 049 to 149. So basically, the SLPP candidate was losing and needed 93 votes to flip the elections. So he basically manufactured 100 votes by adding one in front of the 046. So the attention of Edmond Alpha was called that this is what has happened. What did he do? He removed, he thought it fit, which was the proper thing to do at that point, and said, look, I am going to remove you from the process. You've misconducted yourself. But what we are going to do now is we are going to transfer the tallying from Kwenadugu to Freetown. And when we came to Freetown, Edmond Alpha was there again at the Wellington ECSL Tally Center. They changed the 046 to 149 again, under protestation from the APC representatives that were there. Edmond Alpha was there. He did not even countenance those protestations. And the APC attempted to petition that particular result, because I was the lawyer that was retained to petition that result. We couldn't petition the result in court. You know why? Because the Local Government Act provides that for you to be able to petition a local elections in court, that election has to be first gazetted in the National Gazette. What Edmond Alpha and his people did was they refused to gazette that particular result. I wrote them 3 or 4 times reminding them that you are denying us the opportunity to challenge that disputed election in court. Until
yes, because I was going to ask what you did after that. So basically the redress we have is to go to court, right? And if there has to be something done, a condition precedent that has to be achieved by ECSL before you can go to court. If they refuse blatantly to do that, all you need to do is to send a letter with a notice to the government printers to say, you know, gazette this. They refuse to do so. What do we do? Which is why we are here where we are today. In your party's protest against the appointment of Edmond Alpha as Chief Electoral Commissioner, have you brought this up to the president? What you just said?
Okay, so we've basically detailed that in our letter to the president, but not just that. Our chairman wrote to His Excellency the President requesting a meeting to discuss Edmond Alpha. The president did not reply. He sent a text message to President Biu. Say, I have sent you a letter. I am demanding, I'm requesting a meeting with you, His Excellency, so we can sit and talk about the appointment of Edmond Alpha. He did not acknowledge nor reply to that text message. He called him because I have seen the call log. It was unanswered by the president. What did he do? He went on the next few days to formalize the appointment. It went through Parliament, where we walked out of Parliament, and he came and, you know, administered the oath of office. So Edmond Alpha is there. And there's nothing wrong. There is a way that the president can do this without necessarily breaching the law. He knows how to do it. There is a way. We are not inviting the president
Mr. Macauley, the government is claiming that over 80% of the agreements, the recommendations, well, of course, through the chief minister.
Not the recommendation, the agreement for national unity.
Okay, over 80% of the agreements for national unity has been implemented. How true is this?
So you have 8 resolutions in the agreement for national unity. One is for the president to make a national statement, which he did, something small. It's for the APC to go back to governance, which we did.
It's done, yes.
The setting up of the tripartite
committee,
which we did. The
release of political
prisoners and, conclusion of cases. So we've gone a long way in achieving that. Coming out with the parties, both the APC and SLPP, to condemn violence, to condemn hate speech. We've done that. What hasn't been done is Resolution 3, and I believe it's Resolution 6. Resolution 3 is the most important
and
one.
That's the crux.
Because it's the crux, because Resolution 3 has about 80 recommendations, where only about 10% of those 80 recommendations.
So what is stopping the government and of course the APC, because this is an agreement, it's not just a one-party thing. What is the problem?
So the problem is the government. The reason why is they are on the driving wheel. They are the ones steering this vehicle. Like I said, take for example, many of the things that have to be done via the agreement for national unity are things which, if the government does not take the first action, nothing will be done. Let me give you, I did put out some of this, which includes Resolution 20, about Parliament setting up a standing committee. The minority leader does not have the power to set up committees in Parliament. It is the Clerk of Parliament, the Speaker, and the Leader of Government Business. Resolution 38, which deals with census. It is the government that determines the calendar for census. We deal with Resolution 78, the electoral system. You know, the government said they are going to do a nationwide consultation on which is the preferred electoral system that Sierra Leoneans want. You saw, because you carry that news, that 58% of civil society organization wants the first past the post. The religious body,
yes, quite recently
again, prefer the first past the post. The traditional leaders, the paramount chiefs, over 60 to 70% of them came at Bintumani to say that, look, the people that we govern have told us that they far prefer the first past the post system, because a system of electoral process, because this is the system where they are able to hold accountable individual members of parliament to their various constituencies and localities. In all of this, the government went ahead and skewed it and attempted to bring a bill in parliament to force on APC a proportional representation. And let me just give you on the issue of proportional representation. This was one of the divergent views. The APC wanted a first past the post. The SLPP wanted proportional representation. And it was captured in the tripartite, I believe it's recommendation 78, that look, if we're going to have an electoral system that is going to be based on proportional representation, firstly, the margin of victory must be 50+1 vote. And in addition to that, the political party or the person that carries 50+1 must also have, in addition to that, 25% vote in at least 50% of the district. When they attempted to introduce the bill in parliament, they reneged on this again. They reduced it to 20% and increased the percentage of the district to 2/3 instead of 50%. So people will want to blame APC for not seeing through some of the recommendations in the tripartite, but you cannot blame us. the starting gun, the starting shot has to be fired by the SLPP. They have to do things which in law we call condition precedent. For let you fly now plane, you get forget pilot force for fly the plane. If pilot not there for fly the plane, how this plane will fly? So now we do so.
So this was a tripartite agreement. The government of Sierra Leone, the All People's Congress political party, and of course the international community. How does the international community come in all of this? Because clearly there's now a standoff between the SLPP and the APC. Again, we're now getting used to this. At this point, owing to the fact that it was a tripartite, the of course government of Sierra Leone, your able party, and of course the international, how do they come in?
So the international community are partners in development. Sierra Leone is a sovereign state. They can come and talk to us. They can suggest, they can advise, but they cannot force.
But they're signatories to this agreement.
They are witnesses.
Oh, okay, they're witnesses. They signed under the witnesses section.
Exactly, they are witnesses. But beyond that, there is sovereignty of the state. You cannot have a foreign government dictating what our government can do.
So
they can advise.
If the agreement has indeed collapsed,
so basically, before we got to where we are, we've made sure we've done a tour of all the partners in this particular agreement for national unity. We visited the EU. I was part of that delegation. We visited the British High Commission. We visited the American Embassy. We visited ECOWAS. We visited the UN. We communicated with the AU. And just 2 weeks ago, we had a sit down with the Independent Commission for Independent Commission for Peace. So this just tells you how far we've gone to ensure that the government abides.
What are they saying, these people you consulted with?
I am not going to divulge what our communication with our international partners, for very good reasons. But for the Peace Commission, they said they are going to dialogue with the government. And you know, for us to be able to implement the agreement for national unity, the APC and the SLPP, you've got to be talking. As we speak, since October 10th, 2025, the lead negotiator on the part of the government has refused to respond or acknowledge communication from the APC.
And who is that person? Let's be clear. Is it the chief minister?
So who do you think is the lead negotiator? It's the chief minister. It's David Senge.
So Mr. Macauley, if the agreement has indeed collapsed, like your party is saying, why has the APC not formally withdrawn from it entirely instead of maintaining conditional engagements?
So we are a party that believes in dialogue. We are a party that believes in national cohesion, stability, and development. So it is always our own way of doing things that we engage. So instead of taking a very harsh decision to just abandon, the alternative for abandoning the agreement for national unity is chaos. So we've chosen dialogue, peace, and stability over chaos. So the SLPP will not force us to abandon. What we will do is force them to comply with what they've signed up to.
If they don't comply, Mr. Macauley?
So we have withdrawn and disengaged in governance, which is the first act. We've consulted as a party, we've consulted our membership. The leadership of the party has come to the conclusion that we cannot be cooperating with you whilst you are not sincere. So we've withdrawn from governance. After that, as you can see from the press engagement we had yesterday,
exactly about that.
It is our intention to peacefully, I emphasize, peacefully come out in our numbers to march to see the president.
Are you certain this government will grant you, through the police, that status to come out peacefully?
Well, I have the belief that it is the duty of the president of a country to always do things that are right, to always do things that are in the interest of national stability. And one of the things that are in the interest of national stability is to allow people to voice out their concerns through free speech, through peaceful assembly and protest. You know, I want to take you back to Liberia. When former President Oppong was in office, when the opposition was protesting, the police came out. All of us saw it on social media. They brought out water, cold water, to give the protesters. Not a single shot was fired. Not one person was slapped. The police and the protesters, citizens of Liberia, we are discussing. And some of the things which we, the APC, are seeking to come out and protest about are things that will benefit even the police officers and military officers that people think the government will bring out to stop us. But I have the belief that the police, not the 2023 police that went to the APC office, fired machine gun, killed people there, no. The current police, we believe they've turned the page, that they will grant us security coverage, and this is what we intend to do. We've informed the general public that we will, in the future, not too long from now, engage in countrywide peaceful protest, and when we have selected a date for that, we will write to the police for us to have a sit down, discuss about security modalities, the route that we should use. I mean, I believe when we sit down with the police and discuss how we can achieve what we've proposed to achieve, I believe there will be peace.
It's one thing for the All People's Congress to call for protest. It's another thing for the people to feel confident enough to come out. I just want to take you back a bit. There was a time when supposedly All People's Congress grassroots members came out to protest. Apparently, international community members were to hold a meeting at the APC party headquarters. In that protest, they were arrested and detained. Some of them were arrested and detained, and we saw stakeholders from the All People's Congress Party deny these people, saying these people were not APC members. Do you think these same grassroots people, well, apparently, eventually it was the All People's Congress stakeholders that pushed for their release, which means they were actually APC party members. So do you think these same people would have the confidence to go out again?
So this is the first time
the
APC has called for a protest.
Okay.
If individuals call for protest and it did not work, it wasn't the APC. This time, it is the APC leadership, the party that is calling out for a protest. And before embarking on that, before doing that, we did nationwide consultation with our members, our grassroots, with our local leadership, the national leadership. All of us sat and spoke. And it is because of the confidence they've given to us that they will come out in their numbers and they will be very, very, very peaceful, which is why we went ahead with this particular call that we are going to engage in peaceful protest.
Okay, so in an event where the police clearly denies, refuse to give the All People's Congress an approval for this protest, what happens?
We cannot preempt the police.
But in an event wherein that happens?
No, I am not going to discuss the event whether they are not going to, in the event that they did not give us, they did not allow us. Because for me, I always believe that the right to protest is one that is enshrined in our constitution.
Mr. Macauley, earlier on you said the only reason you're here is because this very government is refusing to comply with an agreement they signed to.
The police are meant to be independent from the government.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Okay.
why should you say that, Mr. Macauley? If I look at, I think, point number 7,
Okay.
consensus surrounding electoral security.
Yes.
Say, from the press release, since the tripartite committee report was presented in July 2024, the APC has not received details on the reforms said to have been undertaken by the Electoral Commission management bodies, in particular the security sector.
Exactly.
The APC notes with grave concern that the lack of transparency reform in the sector is a blatant attempt to replay the 2023 security lapses that deprive the APC from fielding in polling agents in the southeast of the country. Although these are electoral reasons here, but there are concerns when it comes to the security. Now, you would want to rely on the security forces again if the APC decides to call on citizens to come out. Alimat rightly asked if the police refused, because there's a clear court concern here that for the past 6 or 7 years or so, security forces have not been too friendly to the APC party. And we can't say for a fact or guarantee that this particular Sierra Leone police will grant the APC access to come out and protest or come out peacefully, to air their view.
Firstly, I want to thank you for reinforcing the reason why we are where we are now. That one of the reasons why we've taken the position that we've taken today is because of one of what you've just read. It's just one of them. That particular one regarding the reform of the police vis-a-vis electoral security is a core component of the resolutions of the agreement for national unity. You see, you are just reminding myself and viewers and people of Sierra Leone that the government is still not complying with what they've signed to. But coming to the question, like I said, I am going to refuse to preempt the police refusing us. I believe the police, they themselves know that it is in the interest of national unity to allow citizens to peacefully express themselves, whether through peaceful protest or through freedom of speech. So I will say that I am expecting, I am hoping that the police is going to cooperate, that they will give us security coverage to ensure that we keep the peace. So I am not going to contemplate them not allowing us to engage in our protest. If they do, then they will be against democracy. But I believe they will not. So I'm not going to talk about eventualities. When we reach to that, when we reach to the bridge, we'll cross it.
Let me take you to point number 6, civil registration data. Now, the press release says, we met with the National Civil Registration Authority, NCRA, and learned that the authority has registered more than 95% of citizens. We welcome this progress, noting that the electoral data will be drawn from the civil register. We demand that the data is published and validated by all stakeholders. I personally have a concern here. You're asking NCRA to publish, I don't know what aspect of the data you want published, but these are records of Sierra Leoneans, their name, date of birth, place of birth, occupation, their national identity numbers, their ID card numbers, as the case may be. And these numbers are linked to so many other opportunities, like their bank details, their work. Is that what the APC is asking for?
No, it is not at all. And let's just make this very clear. The intention of NACRA and ECSL is to ensure that the electoral register is extracted from the NACRA database. And if that is the case, then whatever data they've collected has to be validated, firstly, and secondly, has to be made public. We are not saying they should publish personal details of individuals. Don't forget, during the electoral process, when voter registration is done, they do publish the
verification names,
the voter list for people to verify. People go there, so it will not be anything out of the ordinary for that to be done. We are not calling for something that has not been done before. We are calling for something to be done which is provided by law, which, for us to be able to have belief in the system, for the system to have credibility, you have to open up. People have to see. If you don't open up, you don't allow people to see, to verify, how do you want them to have confidence in the system, especially what has happened in 2023? Don't forget, the voter register was only published a week before the elections. And if your name is not on the voter register a week before the elections, let me tell you what happened. My younger brother lives and works in South Africa, but he comes to Sierra Leone every time to register, and he comes to Sierra Leone to vote. In 2023, he came to Sierra Leone and he registered. He came back to Sierra Leone to vote, and when he went to the polling booth, his name was not on the register. If they had published the electoral register, the finalized one, way ahead of time, we would have been able to verify whether his name was there or not, and we would have taken action for his name to be included. But because ECSL refused to publish the voter register up to a week before the elections, it meant that about 250,000 people's names were deleted from the electoral register. And when they went to vote, for example, there are certain polling centers where names, last names starting with K, were totally absent. Thousands and thousands of people were basically disenfranchised because ECSL did not do what it was supposed to do. So if you are going to extract the voter register from the NACRA database, the National Register, then you have to publish it to ensure that we are quite sure that, people's names are there. People that have been captured, their names are there. But it is not in this case.
Mr. Macauley, on the 12th of March 2026, the Tripartite Secretariat made a publication showing, and I want to break it down quickly, that the overall implementation status of the recommendations as we are now on the 12th of March, 9% has not started, and as follows: the ECSL recommendation 5, 19, 20 and 61, they've not yet started the implementation. The Human Rights Commission 29, recommendation 29, NACRA recommendation 15 and 22. Now, on the ongoing status of the other implementations or recommendation, 52% are currently ongoing, and they listed the numbers 4, 9, 11, 14, 73, etc., etc., a host of them. 27 are partially completed, 27%, and 10% is completed fully and finally, and 2% not applicable, which is the PPRC recommendation 70 and 71. Now, we have 52% ongoing, we have 72% partially completed, we have 10% completed. I want to know, from the APC's point of view, is this progress or not? And then, if it is not a progress, would you consider judicial means also to acquiring what you need? Will you face the walls of the court on some of these agreements and recommendations and implementation that are not going your way?
So basically, some recommendations are far weightier than others. For example, those that have to do with the electoral system, our democracy, those that have to do with ensuring that elections are no longer stolen in Sierra Leone. So if those ones are part of the ones that are not being implemented, then it doesn't matter whether you implement 88% of the recommendation. The core ones, if you've not implemented, then it counts for nothing, because we will go back to elections in 2028. 2023 will repeat itself as Edmond Alpha has promised. He promised, he said, now it's be the game. He said, now it's be the game. 2020 is not going to be different from 2023. So the man is telling us, you know, when we were young, there was this myth of thieves called Black December. They say, well, Black December, they can't thief in a use. They write you letter and tell you, say, we they can you owe so term. The key for the host, put an ado left and they so walk will not go straight, go up, you go inside with thief and come. That is what Edmond Alpha is telling us. It don't tell we now say 2028. It repeats 2023. I believe that President Bio, in the interest of national stability, national unity, national development, will sit and talk with the APC for us to reach a middle ground where we will find ways.
After all the reach out, would he still sit with you? I mean, you've mentioned that you've met him. There are text messages, and of course, the chief negotiator is not even talking. How optimistic are you still that?
So it just shows you that the APC party is a party that has exercised patience. We've bent backwards and backwards and backwards.
Are those patience gone into?
So basically, our patience, the elasticity in our patience has gone thin, which is why we are where we are today. But we believe in dialogue. We've spoken to our international partners. We are reaching out to government. We continue to reach out to them to say, let's sit and talk. But we are multitasking whilst reaching out, urging them to sit and talk with us on how Edmond Alpha should be eased off from ECSL, because the APC has made it very clear we will not accept Edmond Alpha. There are 8 million people in Sierra Leone.
So have you preferred any alternative to Edmond Alpha, Mr. Macauley?
For God's sake. Now Edmond Alpha no more Sierra Leone. Have the
All People's Congress Party preferred any alternatives to Edmond Alpha?
The alternative is this. We set up the search and nominating committee. People that have integrity, they will go and search, shortlist 3 people, say, President, here, you choose who I want to choose from there. Now, there will believe, say, they will conduct election where Allah no commodity. Now, people they will get proven integrity, track record of integrity, transparency and accountability. It is under Edmond Alpha when he was acting, you know, that the I think it's IRG, there is this research that was done that says that
IGR, you mean?
No, not IGR, is I've forgotten the poll. It's a West African poll, but I think it was IGR that conducted the poll for them. I mean, they've said basically that the public trust in ECSL has dipped from 65 to 36%, and that is under the leadership of Edmond Alpha acting. So basically, people are saying that we don't have confidence in that man, and in the interest of peace and stability, President Bio, we get 8,000 Sierra Leonean them, 8,000. Not Edmond Alpha no more. The man almost reaching retirement age, probably two years from now or just after the elections. If they retire, there are 8 million Sierra Leoneans, credible Sierra Leoneans amongst those 8 million. We get people the way we go able for say, okay, we all agree, say this person and person we get credibility. Late President Kaba did it. When APC came out and had a dialogue with him with respect to Aka Ahmed, he replaced him with Christian Athorpe. You know, so please, President Bio.
So, Mr. Macauley, as we round up, what minimum non-negotiable conditions must be met for the APC to return to Parliament and fully engage in governance?
We don't have minimum negotiable conditions to be met. What we're asking for is for the agreement for national unity to be implemented. And if it is implemented in good faith, it means that Edmond Alpha has to leave. That is the starting point. We have to somehow ease him away.
So in other words,
there is a way to ease out.
So in other words, if he's removed today, you'll go back to governance and then you'll talk about the other stuff.
Definitely. I mean, that is one of the conditions. Yeah.
Let me take you through the comments, interesting ones,
yes.
On Facebook so far. And Hussam Conte is concerned. He says, I wonder if truly APC is prepared to contest the 2028 elections. Patotwa is saying, Mr. Macauley, you said the last time that no one needs police clearance to demonstrate. Why do you need police clearance now if the APC wants to come out? Richard Fallows says, I think the engagement, he's asking, he said, I think the engagement you've done for the planned protest, would your families and children and uncles and aunties be informed to be in the front of the protest? And Hussam says, 7 years ago, since this government took over power, the APC party gets mixed up, box up all over the place. Albert Ekunda Thompson said, this government don't have integrity at all. They are just misusing power. Worst government ever in the country. And Fatish Bakish is saying, kudos to Comrade Ady Macauley for putting the record straight related to the tripartite recommendations. Hussam says, APC, the majority of Sierra Leoneans at home and abroad will not entertain any hooliganism from you guys. That will disturb the peace and stability of the country. And Samboy Casanova says, Ady Macauley, Edmond said 2028 is not going to be different from 2023, 2012 and 2027. Don't cherry pick his words. And he goes further to say, I thought you said the last time that people don't need police clearance to protest. What changed? And Mystic from Dwazak says, I have consistently emphasized the need for deep political consultations as a nation, despite disagreements between the current administration and the opposition over the implementation of the tripartite recommendations. Dialogue remains the most constructive path forward. When approached with mutual respect, it can strengthen our democracy and promote lasting unity. I think those are the comments in so far.
So basically, I just want to be very clear. When you look at, I believe it's section 16 or section 17 of the Public Order Act that deals with possessions, it says you have to inform. And I still stand by what I said here on the 6th of July 2022, that you don't need police clearance for protest. You inform the police because they have to assess the security situation. So I don't want to be misquoted. And what I said here this morning, I did not say APC is seeking clearance. I said APC will inform the police, so we sit and talk and discuss how they can give us security coverage. So I'm being very deliberate with what I am saying.
And if they refuse to give the security coverage?
Like I said to you, it is the constitutional duty of the police to provide security.
There's always the what if aspect, Mr. Macauley.
So
even though it's hypothetical.
I am a very positive person. As I stand here or sit here, I'm an aspirant for the APC flag bearership. I believe I'm going to win. So I'm not entertaining losing at this point. Okay. So it's the same thing with requesting the police to provide us clearance. I am a very positive person. So I believe that the police will sit down, talk with us, will provide us the security coverage. And, you know, recently we informed the police that we are going to have a mammoth meeting at Atuga Stadium. They provide us all security. One person they not chook there. One person they not slap there. So you see, and you know, it is so wrong that whenever people say we are going to protest, the first thing that people start talking about is violence. It's wrong. Sierra Leoneans have to change their psyche. First of all, we have to accept as Sierra Leoneans that it's our constitutional duty and right to protest peacefully. Once you protest peacefully, nothing will happen. If I'm telling you, when last did the police grant basically allow anyone to come out? So basically we have a law that says you can protest peacefully, but the police will never allow you to protest peacefully if you are not coming out to protest in favor of the sitting government. Par police una left no. And I believe this time around they will sit and talk with us. And I believe they know that what we are fighting for is for rights that they will benefit from. And also, you know, when you read part of our press release, we are not just going to protest for political reasons. We are also going to protest for the high cost of living in Sierra Leone. Every day, the prices for goods and services are increasing. Every day, the government is increasing charges for licensing of vehicles, and just in the past 1 month they've increased that also. So now for you to renew your licensing for a Forerunner or a Jeep, it's about 4,000 to 5,000 leones. And let's come to the issue of fuel. You know, the effect of any increment on the price of fuel is always what we call the cost push inflation. It's basically where the cost of goods rise because there has been an increment in the cost of production. So now, because there has been an increment in the price of fuel, transportation has increased, and many of the goods and services that we benefit from on a daily basis, we seek, are done through transportation means. So everything else everything else will increase. The price for everything else will increase. But let me just give you this. I am not denying that the price of fuel cannot be affected by supply and demand. And when there is war, where 20% of the world market oil is coming from, there will be an aspect of scarcity, and that will drive up prices. But I want Sierra Leoneans to note that the recent increment of the fuel, the pump price of fuel, is not as a result of the Iran war. It is because of the increment of taxes on petroleum products in the 2026 Public Finance Act. So let me give you a breakdown. As of January 2026, fuel was 24,000. If you are buying diesel, it's 24,000. Fuel is 24,500 or 25,000. It was increased to 28,500. There was no Iran war. In fact, as at that time, the cost for a barrel of oil has reduced from $82 for Brent crude to $76. But government still proceeded to increase the pump price of fuel. So it means that it is not because of the price at the world market. It is because of government intervention. So let me give you this. And there is a pricing formula for fuel. So in that 1 liter that you buy for 32,000 euros, these are the charges as of January this year, when the Public Finance Act became applicable. Port charges were increased from $3 to $3.50 per ton. excise duty, which is customs duty, for 1 liter of fuel. In January, it was 2 leones 80 cents. As of last week, when the price of fuel was increased, it has increased to 5 leones. So now the customs duty on 1 liter of fuel has increased from 2 leones 80 cents to 5 leones. The taxes increased not because of the Iran war. The taxes increased because of the Public Finance Act of 2026, which the government is implementing. So the taxes were increased by 80%. For diesel, it was increased from 2 leones 40 to 5 leones, so it was increased by 100%. So in that also 1 liter of fuel, you have what we call the road users charge. That is a charge which goes to the IMFA. In January, it was 70 cents. As of last week, it has increased to 1 leone. So there is 43% increment. It increased not because of the Iran war, it was increased because of government taxes. For the diesel, same for the user charge, road user charge. It was 50 cents. Now it has increased to 1 leone, so it's 100% increment. Then also after the IMFA charge, you have what they call infrastructure development charge. So in January, it was 2 leone 46 cents. They've increased it to 3 leones 44 cents as at last week. That tax increase did not go up because of the Iran war. It went up because of the Public Finance Act of 2026. So it was increased by 30%. Then for diesel, infrastructure charge was 1 leones, was 0.36 cents. It was 36 cents. Now it has gone to 1 leone 48 cents. So it was increased by 300%. And the last one is the removal of subsidies. What used to happen is this. Government will say, well, oil marketing companies should reduce the pump price of fuel by this amount. The government will subsidize, meaning the government will pay for that. So under IMF pressure, the government has removed the subsidies.
No, but the minister clarified that they are still subsidizing. The Minister of Information.
Let me just give you this. That is what he says, and I have my version. If he does not agree with me, we can come and sit here and we will use government document and policy to prove who is wrong or who is right. So the government was not paying the subsidies to the oil marketing companies. It was accruing debt. So what the government has done is that it has told the oil marketing companies that the debt we have to pay you for the subsidies we used to give, you now have to recover it from the fuel price as at now. So for every liter of fuel you buy for petrol, you have to pay a debt for subsidies in the past of 1 leone 52 cents. So government be say that they do it good. After they don't do it the good, they turn back say, well, that good what we do, now they pay for them. So that is what the government is doing to us. So it is disingenuous. It is dishonest to tell the people of Sierra Leone that we are increasing the fuel, the pump price of fuel as a result of the Iran war. I did a research. Let's start with the Mano River Union countries, because we are all on the same coastline. So when you talk about logistics to deliver oil, the price will almost be the same. Not Guinea, not Liberia, not Ivory Coast has increased their fuel price since the Iran war started. Let's leave the Mano River. Let's go to ECOWAS. No country in the ECOWAS region has increased the pump price of fuel apart from Sierra Leone. Why is Sierra Leone a unique case? Sierra Leone is a unique case because of the 2026 Public Finance Act. So let people in our host know, say, the fuel price go up, not so because of the Iran war, but I'm not denying, say, in order for affect them, but not to now. This fuel price go up because governments don't increase the taxes on petroleum product, and I don't give a different deductions. You get the port charge, you get the excise duty, that is the custom duty, you get the road users tax, you get the infrastructure development tax, they get the subsidies. So inside that 1 gray liter, inside that 1 gray price, you get 4 people the way they take money there. But let me just give you this.
Mr. Macauley, apologies. We barely have a few minutes. I want to ask you on this.
Yes.
Now, in the press release, it says, in view of these firm positions, we conclude as follows. The APC will not return its elected officials to Parliament and local councils until Mr. Edmond Alpha, who is an accomplice in the 2023 discredited elections, leaves office and the government demonstrates credible commitment to the implementation of the ANU and the Tripartite Committee recommendations. Should the government choose to disregard our legitimate concerns, APC will stage a nationwide peaceful demonstration at a date to be announced by the leadership shortly. Now, if elected officials in parliament and in councils, will not be returning, do you still expect them to be paid?
I am not the government. It is the government that has that call to make, so I cannot say anything.
But would you want them to be paid? We are in the APC saying we are withdrawing them from now.
Like I said, I am not the government. The government will have to make that call. That is it.
So how sustainable is this stance?
Well, it will be sustainable this time. We are quite determined not to go to Parliament, not to go to the councils, not to cooperate with government on governance until the demands for good governance are met. We cannot be taking part in bad governance when the demands of good governance are not being met. But also, we will not be doing the people of this country any favors. We will be accomplices to bad governance. We don't want to be accomplices to bad governance any longer.
You would agree with me, there are also important issues now within Parliament that require members of Parliament to be present. One is the bill, the amendment bill, constitutional amendment bill, now tabled before Parliament. Members of Parliament should be available to argue that bill. And not only that, they're also important in the passing of that bill. If that bill is passed without the representation of the APC and Edmond Alpha is subsequently removed at the end of the day, would you want to come back and say table another bill before Parliament again to be passed? Because now this boycott has a ripple effect. How long is the APC willing to play this boycott game? And how long is this government willing to not listen and not come to the table to discuss? It's going to be important in addressing all of this. If this government says, when I left there one day, we're not going to talk to them until December, APC members of Parliament and councillors will not be in their positions till December. That means we would have issues with bills passing through Parliament that would require members of Parliament to vote or to argue. Important government documents that should pass will not pass or will pass without the APC's contribution. And at the end of the day, this will affect not only the APC, but as you say, this is in the interest of the general citizenry of the country. So I am critically concerned with this constitutional amendment because the APC party is saying, let's wait and use the amendment to appoint our new commissioners. But you are not now in Parliament to pass this amendment. How would you want this amendment to pass? If it's like saying, our men and Bolabo can force before the men. How long will this continue?
Okay, so we've seen in the past in this country where teachers engage in industrial actions. They don't go to school. And we know the consequences and effects of teachers not going to school. Our children will not be taught, right? We've seen medical doctors engage in industrial actions where they don't go to to the hospital. We know what the consequences of those are, but they still do it. So I can tell you, doing what we are doing is a means of achieving good governance. And when we talk about good governance, or governance in general, we are not just talking about the government in power. We're also talking about the opposition, because the opposition is there to hold the government accountable. The last time, I believe it was in Bintumani, when Parliament held its session in Bintumani, when they were passing the proportional representation instrument. We went there. We did not boycott. We went there to engage in debates and to ensure that procedures were followed. What happened? They called in the police. Our members of parliament were beaten, tear gassed. So our members of parliament are tired of being beaten and tear gassed when seeking to do their job in parliament. So now they will not go to parliament again to do their job. Because they don't want to be tear gassed. Because let me tell you something. When the APC will seek to ensure that the right thing is done in the passage of all these bills, which they want to use as accessories to steal the elections in 2028, when the APC will insist on them following the right procedure, they will call the police again to beat our members of parliament, to tear gas our members of parliament. We are not going to make ourselves willing victim this time around. But let me tell you something. You know, President Bio and his supporters have said President Bio is the father of democracy.
What do you say?
Well, his reaction...
Let him put that to test, right?
Let him put that to test. That is what... I'm not challenging him. But you know, say me that one of you strong critic them. But if you want to make accept say you're a father of democracy, Palos you don't talk law and will let Monalpha issue. So that you will fail, we will ease them out without you breaking the law. There are ways of doing it, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Ady Macauley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Macauley.
Thank you very much
for showing up.
Yeah.